Hello everyone and welcome to the first ever Retro Rides podcast. I'm Cameron, this is Rich, and over the coming weeks we're going to bring you everything we can, talking classic cars, collector cars and performance cars. That's our wheelhouse, that's the area we play in, and there's a bit to talk about. Rich?
There is a bit to talk about this week, Cam. Firstly, it's great to have you in front of the camera. I've known you for a while. You're the brains behind the business. Retro Rides, you're a big passionate car guy, got a big collection, and it's one of the things that we're going to be talking about on the show in future episodes. We've got the website, publishing daily, we're on all the social channels, and now we've got the podcast. Let's talk about the state of the market.
What a week.
Automotive news this week has to kick off really with the Jaguar rebrand.
The Jaguar rebrand.
There's lots to talk about. What were your first impressions when you saw the video and the logo pop up?
Well, I try not to do impressions, but my first impressions were wow. And not wow, that's cool. Wow, I've never seen a brand, in my view, ignore their heritage in such a spectacular fashion.
Well, they really did go all the way because they deleted everything from their Instagram accounts. There is no reference to the old Jaguar. They've given us a teaser about what's coming up. But why, I was having a look back through the archives. No one's spoken about Jaguar like this for a long time.
Well, this is true, and I think if you look at Jaguar's history as a, first of all as a race brand, winning Le Mans, I think in 1951 was their first win.
Long time ago now.
Long time ago now, 70-something years ago. Right through it all, even, John Goss's Bathurst victory in Australia in '84. It's a long time between drinks. Some iconic cars, even the XJC, of course the E-Type, that is still referred to as one of the most beautiful cars ever made, and more recently the F-Type. But there seem to be lacking some inspirational models. They're certainly not a brand that you walk into a dealership and get excited about anymore.
No, well, there's, we're living in a world of celebrity as well, aren't we? In this digital YouTube world, we're talking before the show. What are the rappers and the pop stars buying these days? They're in Land Rovers, they're in Bentley Bentegas, they're in Lambos. Jaguar's no longer the cool kid on the block, and I think this is their attempt to say, old guys talking about the heritage from, the 1950s and the heyday of the 60s. Those guys are dying out, and we have to do something.
But even this rebrand, I feel if you're going to go down the road that they've gone down, I think in terms of that context or that creative treatment, they're 4 years too late. This was a conversation that you wanted to be a leader in 4 years ago. And now we're seeing people get tired of this, I'm just going to say it, this woke sort of approach out there. And here they are coming out with a mass market campaign very much aimed at that market, very late in the play. So are they really innovators, or are they just having a crack at trying to get some traction whilst being late to the party? Yeah,
well, it's certainly going to be a big shift for the brand. They can't come back as they were from here. It's going to need to be an extraordinary vehicle, whatever they come up with, and it's probably as everyone's saying, it's going to be one that you have to plug into a PowerPoint, and we're also seeing lots of brands out there now revising their strategies around electrification. We're still seeing brands pouring lots of money into hydrogen and other tech, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with. And we've discovered that the people we like to talk to, the classic car enthusiasts, they're not generally electric fans.
They are not generally electric fans. So, they don't collect washing machines and store them and put them away, hoping they'll go up in value.
No, they don't. So we saw again, Lotus today came and said they're shifting their strategy. They're going to keep making, keep selling
internal combustion
engines and switch out the electrics. Heaven help Porsche, they've pinned their nail also to electrification. And if you go into a Porsche dealer at the moment and you try to buy the last of the ICE engine cars, they're all sold out. Boxsters, you can't touch them. So they're going to have to pivot. Jaguar are pivoting, everyone's pivoting, so let's pivot.
Well, thank God for Jim Farley, who's come out and said Ford will basically make a V8 until it's illegal to do so. So we love Jim. More power to you, Jim.
Well,
Thank
I'm
you.
a big fan of Jim. I think he's one of the only CEOs
who is a car guy.
He's a car guy, and he said, "What about Fords? They're only going to make interesting and performance cars, aren't they, or fun cars?" What was his actual quote? Fun cars, important cars. So
but he knows his market, and he knows his market is trucks and Mustang.
Another brand built on the Mustang brand on a big heritage, and managed to.
I mean, even the Land Cruiser and Prado. We don't want to get bogged down in these modern cars, but Prado, the new Prado coming out, is very much, looking at its Land Cruiser heritage, and Toyota leverage that. It's the Land Cruiser Prado, and Jaguar. Yeah, I think it's quite unfortunate. However, some really funny videos have popped up online. The rapid production of people dealing with the trauma of Jaguar's new campaign.
Particularly the Brits.
There's some funny stuff out there, folks. Get online and check it out. Rich, what's going on in the market? Each week, guys, we're going to talk about some of the big sales and what's happening out there in the marketplace. The market, it's pretty funny at the moment. There's some good sales happening, some robust numbers, but overall probably down 10 or 15% price-wise over the last 12 or 18 months.
Yeah, so the market's obviously a little bit softer. We're hearing about it in the general news, and the market reflects that. We're hearing about, the interest rates are up and people are finding it harder. So there's obviously a lot of people trying to move some of their toy. They're often the first to go. So yeah, it's definitely a buyer's market at the moment. But like always, I think we're seeing, the high quality cars with good histories and well looked after are still achieving great money.
And certainly the original cars, anything that's matching numbers, original engine, original drivetrain, or high-end, really high-end restos and probably resto mods as well. So Rich, tell us about this E9 that fetched a good price. Yeah,
I was on collecting cars. They're achieving some big prices, and I think this was a standout. $330,000 plus fees at the Hammer, a full rotisserie restoration, gorgeous car, one of 500 right-hand drives. And people love that shape. The Batmobile with the racer and the 3-litre classic machine, big straight six.
So what's that, like a 72, car. 73 model car? Is that
early
70s?
70, yeah, it's a 72 model.
Okay.
And that was a great result. And another thing we're seeing in the market is, the JDM cars are doing well at the moment. Another NSX was up on collecting cars this week. It was an import, not in super condition with some, reasonable kilometres on it, but, what a great sports car for 80 grand. Actually, I mean, what do you get today for 80 grand that's going to be as much fun as an old NSX?
But you can buy a hybrid people mover or an NSX by the sound of it. I think I know what I'd be doing.
Yes, well, assuming you don't have kids to transport, I would take the NSX too. Yes. And the sales are full of that at the moment. We've seen, the Aussie Muscle, Burns & Co. had one, and there was a big collector down there who's moving some of his stock. Yeah, so Burns & Co. have had what they're calling the Jack Foster collection, which they've actually done over 3, I think, individual auctions. To me, it looks like this guy had a whole lot of Aussie stuff. There's multiple utes, everything from your sort of FCs right through sedans, lots of motorbikes, lots of cool stuff. So that's right in Burns & Co.'s wheelhouse. They've had some good results too lately. Some really nice cars go through there. But certainly it seems to me that the stock levels also aren't quite where they were. The auctions don't appear to have the level of stock that they had. No, I think there's plenty of tradable cars out there, but the special cars and the ones that are on the fringe, if people can afford to hang on to them, then they're probably hanging on to them for when the prices come back. However, I'm not sure that Holden market is going to come back. I think there was that 5 years ago when we saw the brand cease operations. There was obviously a big tick in the market and the prices went up, but I think we're seeing some of the Aussie stuff soften. The big stuff will still break through, but I think in general they're struggling for a bit of stock. That's an interesting point of view. To be honest, I don't really have an opinion on that. I'd be interested in hearing what our listeners have to say, jumping on Facebook or on our YouTube channel. But I think there'd be some passionate Holden people out there who may disagree with you. But, I think the classics will always remain the classics. The great Monaros, the XU1s, the SLR 5000s, the EHs, some of those things. Yeah, I think you're rare, rare stuff, but we're not, and we're seeing a little bit of a shift into the you know, the four-door saloons, the VTs and the early 2000s cars, but they've got a long way to go in terms of achieving
to that
big prices.
point, we did a video with Glenn Torrens, actually GT did a video on the last of the Iron Lions, so the end of the original Holden V8 motor, which I think the VT Commodore SS Series 1 had, and then in the Series 2 they went to the LS motor, and we did a video on that, and we've had phenomenal interest in that video on our YouTube channel. I think over 50,000 views so far.
That's 50,000 views. It surprised me.
So people love them. Yeah.
People do love them. It surprised me, Cameron, because, you know, I'm not a... I mean, our family did have an awesome Calais V8 of the same era, a VN. It was a fantastic machine.
Yeah.
Great for sideways action.
Yeah.
You know, lazy, good sound.
Yep.
4-speed automatic. Great cars, but we're not seeing people turn up on them at Cars and Coffees. We're still seeing them drive the older Holdens.
You're right.
We just haven't seen it yet. Maybe it's coming.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is coming. We're starting to see, you know, some of the Japanese stuff from that era come through.
Yeah, we're seeing the younger collectors.
Younger collectors buying Skylines and a lot of the Japanese stuff.
We are, and talking of Skylines, we were down at the Berry Fair this week, talking about the state of the market. It was a great show. It was great to see.
Berry Motor Fair, big shout out to those guys. Raised a lot of cash for Starlight Foundation and Lifeline South Coast, so well done.
Yeah, 45,000 to Starlight, 45,000 to Lifeline. Jordan and Pip behind that, which was great. We were down there. Our mate Peter Landon had an old GTR, a Skyline, a Hakasuka from 1971, which attracted a lot of attention. Also, there was some hot machines there, an Enzo Ferrari. You don't see those too
F40,
often. An F40.
Some beautiful cars there, even a fantastic 928S, which a gentleman was selling. And again, we'll be putting a little video of that up as well, because that was just a stunning car. And the 928S, it's not really a Porsche that people get excited about overall. I think, you know, everyone loves a 911. I mean, even a 944 turbo, or
maybe they're coming. Maybe that's the next thing.
That big fat backside, and they're really a cool looking thing. I mean, I actually, to be honest, this car was mint. It had an absolutely original.
It had the psychedelic interior.
Beautiful interior. You know, no dash cracks, none of those issues. It had had a cam issue at some point, which had been rectified, but mechanically seemed pretty good. Great paint.
Well, they're a cool thing, big V8.
Yeah, a cool thing. If you're interested in the car, get in touch with us, because and we can hook you up with the owner. But you know, I'm now selling cars.
Now you're selling cars. Well, that's coming in 2025. We'll talk about our plans more in the future. But that was also good, and we saw in Melbourne a new show down there.
Yep.
Motors and Masterpieces was on the weekend in Melbourne. Had a few friends go to that and say it was a great show. I think it's supposed to replace Motor Classica, because that didn't run this year. Did a little bit of coverage on it on the site. Looked great. E9, BMW also won. Batmobile Spec Car won the best in show at that event. And look forward to seeing how those guys get on.
Yeah, cool. Well, there's lots of good stuff happening out there. As we mentioned, I think Chicane Auctions have got stuff going on as well at the moment. You know,
Trading Garage got a couple of good.
Trading Garage, you've got some nice cars.
The 782 boys up in Queensland. If you're more into your American style and hot rod, they're looking after that market. And then on the site this week, we're pleased to announce to the viewers, we've got Michael Stahl riding for us, a legend of the Australian automotive scene. Michael's been riding some cool retro pieces for us, and this week including on the much-loved Datsun 1600.
The box body Datto 1600, and Starley's written a great piece on that. Starley's Rear Views, they're called, and we've done a number of those. There'll be more coming at retrorides.com.au, and his take on the 1600. I'll tell you what's really interesting about that is that it's probably, when I saw that story in the list, I thought, you know, are people going to get excited over that? Well, I couldn't have been more wrong, because the the comments and the feedback we've had on social media, particularly people posting their pictures, they're telling their stories, their first cars, they rallied them, they raced them, they changed engines. They're definitely a favourite, the old 1600s.
That's right. Did you ever own one? Did you have one in your collection?
No, but I certainly remember as a young guy in Newcastle, plenty of guys that did, and unfortunately, a lot of those cars, I'm pretty sure, didn't survive. But
what about the Z cars? Are you a fan of the Z car?
I love the Z car. I'd love a Z car, and I'm really torn at the moment. We've got a new story coming out on the history of the Z, but I would really love a 260. I'd even think a 280 Targa would be a cool car.
Cameron, you can't have a 280 Targa. They were disgusting.
No, they're kind of cool.
I can do a 240 and 260. The 280s.
Well, the other one, the
acquired
300s,
taste.
the 300s now are coming into that era where people are starting to put them away or pull them out again and dust them off. And
yeah, well, I think they're a good-looking car, but I think the 280s are probably the worst of that breed. But we that's the joy of motoring, though, isn't it, Cameron? We all have different.
We all have different tastes.
Different tastes, and that's what we're trying to bring to our fans. So tell us what you like, what cars you love, in the comments on what you'd like to cover. Another big piece we've got coming up on the show this week is a piece on the John Goss Special, Ford's famous hard top of the 70s. Cam, this one's actually your own personal car.
It is actually mine and my beautiful partner's car, and it's an automatic 75, August 75 build John Goss Special, and Glenn Torrens has done a review. We're going to have a story on the website, and the video's already out there on YouTube, so check it out. And the John Goss Special, I mean, people love these big wide-assed Fords now, but Ford, as many people may know, the Cobra was built because Ford actually couldn't shift them, they couldn't sell them, and they
put some racing stripes on them.
They put some stripes on them and some wheels, and built these cars to flog. To really get rid of the body shells, and the John Goss was sort of a similar issue.
Yeah, well, the Goss is not as well known as the Cobra. How many did they make?
700, and I think I'm going to say 384 automatics, and the rest were manuals, something like that. Anyway, somewhere around those sort of numbers. The Goss was really a pretty bit of a poverty pack. It was the 302. It wasn't the 351. None of the luxuries that we appreciate today, like air conditioning. I think power steering was even an option.
Has yours got power steer?
Mine does have power steer, no aircon though, and it is, as Cliffy Chambers, one of our riders, mentioned to me, they get hot as hell, and they are a midsummer hot box, I think was his expression, and they certainly are. They get hot as hell, but they're a fantastic looking car. A car that has held their value too. Only two options in terms of paint, emerald fire.
What sort of money have you got to spend to get a good Goss car these days?
Good Goss, I think you're 150 and up. Yeah. There's a few around. I know there are a couple of, I was actually talking to a guy this morning who's got a mate that's doing a full bare metal resto on one. They're becoming quite sought after. A lot of them were butchered.
Yeah, and for those that
like
don't
anything
know,
from that era,
that don't know too much about John Goss,
two-time Bathurst winner.
Two-time Bathurst winner, most famously in the Jaguar, probably in the 80s, but in this car.
I'll actually tell you a story.
Did you have a chat? You had a chat to him recently.
I did, we'd like to get John on the show. He's a very busy man still at age 80 odd. And I was fortunate enough to have a chat with both him and Kevin Bartlett on separate occasions. Of course, they were co-drivers in 74 for that Bathurst victory. It was actually Kevin that took the car over the finish line at the end of that race. But John Goss, was the real old school racer. And back in those days, he did the marketing. He got out, he spoke to Ford, he drove all the financial side of his business. He sat over in Balmain in Sydney and spent night after night after night building the car. They didn't run all races of the championship in 74. They did the Sandown 500 really as an endurance test before Bathurst. He'd had problems with the car the previous year, and he came away with the result. Brock had some problems, I think, in 74, but nonetheless.
Well, that was the era, wasn't it? Was the team owner was Dick Johnson Racing and Alan Moffat Racing.
Moffat Ford dealers.
Was generally, and they were generally mechanics or had some mechanics.
John Goss is a remarkable person, and he actually built. He built the car, he built the motor, he did everything, and Those sort of
So
guys.
we saw in that era the Larry Perkins, the great engineers, and
Larry Perkins.
they had to do everything.
Certainly
Market, drive. It's an era we've not seen, but the motor racing landscape keeps on changing.
It does, and but John Goss and the Goss Special is it's a nice piece of Australian motoring history. And Ford really they put those cars together to celebrate the '74 Bathurst win, and they. And then there were certain dealers, so some of the big dealers did additional options to those cars. There were cloth trim insert options by some dealers. All cars had a wide interior. There were spoilers and front lower body kits and things put on by some dealers. So, trying to get the information now on exactly what's factory correct and what's not can be a little tricky, but there's some really good Facebook pages dedicated to the John Goss Special, and you can find out a lot of interest. There's a guy that's started a registry of them. Our car's registered on there. So again, just trying to keep track of which ones are out there and where they've ended up. So that's what's going on with John Goss Specials. Check out Glenn Torrens' story.
Check it out on the internet this week.
Yeah. That probably draws episode 1 to a close.
It does. And if people want to spend some more time with us, they can obviously go to retrorides.com.au, publishing every day. We're pretty excited about it.
Some of the best journos in Australia really writing for us, folks. We're really excited. People like Michael Starr, we've got Glenn Torrens, we've got Samantha Stevens, all of these people, Cliff Chambers doing our valuations and our how-to buyers guides. We're really trying to give you guys some tools to get out there, make the first purchase of a classic car that you want, maybe buy and sell and trade one, whatever it is. We want to be the hub that you go to. And if you subscribe, that helps us out too, because we're delivering all this at no cost to you guys, our listeners and readers.
Yes, but you can send cash in brown paper bags, and if not, you can go to the website for a chance to win right now. We're giving away
We're giving away 5 Karcher cleaners and a 5 car cleaning kits.
Keep your car nice and clean and tidy on the weekends. Keep that classic spick and span.
Keep the driveway clean, the whole box and dice. So, and there'll be more great prizes to come. We've got some really cool ideas.
Yeah, we've got some exciting things in the pipeline. 2025 with some events and some other things that we're going to be doing. So we're really excited to share with you our passion.
And if you've got a cool car and you want us to tell the story of that car, drop us a line. And thanks very much for listening. And we'll see you soon.
See you soon.